Hello everybody, I'm welcome to SportSource, your number one source for sports, and today we're talking about the Bradley Beal trade rumors and why I think he should go to the Denver Nuggets. But before we do that, smash that like button and subscribe for more NBA news and discussions. Without further ado, let's begin the video. As we all know, the Washington Wizards are not in a good place right now. They do have Bradley Beal, who in my opinion is a top 20 NBA player, but then, the rest of their team is not looking so good. Jamal is out with injury. They're going to be looking like a bottom team in the Eastern Conference next season. So it's looking like that there's going to be lots of Bradley Beal trade rumors for this season, and there already has been some involving the Celtics, but mostly the Miami Heat, because the Miami Heat really want to go hard after Bradley Beal. But I want to do a kind of an underdog team that I think really would fit, and the Denver Nuggets is the perfect team. The Nuggets, they are the deepest team in the league, in my opinion, and I think that they want to take that next step. They were really good in the regular season last year, but no one really had them as a true contender just because of that lack of that other star and that firepower. And since there's so much more firepower in the West this season, Bradley Beal would be a very good acquisition to this Denver Nuggets young team. Now, if the Nuggets do acquire Bradley Beal, then I believe Beal can be the first option on a contending team, because Jokic, he's not aggressive enough, he doesn't take enough shots, and, he doesn't have that scoring capability or that scoring mentality like Beal. And, you got Jamal Murray, who could be like a third, second scorer. We've seen him be that go-to guy in clutch situations at times with the Denver Nuggets. I think that he can improve in doing that and just being more clutch and just doing more things like that and just improving his overall game. But I feel like Bradley Beal would be huge to this team, because it's not too often that a team could get a top 20 player in the league, and he's going into his prime. He does have 2 years left on his contract, but we'll be talking about more about his contract later. But let's talk about the trade package. So for the Denver Nuggets, they're obviously getting Bradley Beal, top 20 player, amazing scorer, one of the best scorers in the league, and just overall great player. And the Washington Wizards would have to get Gary Harris, who Gary Harris is a great shooter and defender. And then they would also have to get Michael Porter Jr., which is the big piece, but I'll be talking about that in a bit. And then you also need to include, I think 2 first-round picks is enough to get done. There's some bench guys they could give up, but if I'm the Washington Wizards, I'm more valuing Gary Harris, Michael Porter Jr., and the first. Everything else is just extra because your team is not contending right now, especially if you get rid of Bradley Beal. So there's really no point getting more bench guys. I feel like 2 first-round picks, a young player, and an established young player, I think that's pretty good for them. Now let's talk about some of the guys that the Washington Wizards would be acquiring. So we have Gary Harris. Last year he averaged 13, 3, and 2, and the year before that he averaged 18 points. So he had a bit of a drop, or he had a big drop off this year, but he took a step back offensively last year. But he played amazing defense, and he didn't take away any shots from the Denver Nuggets offense, from the flow of the offense. And that's one of the reasons they succeeded, was because, no one really takes away shots from guys like Murray and Jokic. Everyone gets their own shots. Everyone's happy. Everyone's content with The Rock. The Rock is being passed around a lot by Jokic and Murray. So everyone's getting their shots. Everyone's happy. Gary Harris didn't really... he didn't really struggle or he did struggle at times, but I just feel like that he did good in the Denver Nuggets system, and I don't really know if he's going to play that role in Washington if he goes there. He would probably be one of their best players on the team, a good defender. I think he could put up very good numbers, and he's still young, so we're going to have to see how he does next season. But, he's a big piece to that Denver Nuggets team, and I don't know if you want to give him up for Bradley Beal, because, you want to keep the same core together, but if you have the chance to get Bradley Beal, you pull the trigger. And then there's Michael Porter Jr., who's a rookie. He was projected very high in the draft, in the 2018 NBA draft, and he didn't play his rookie season because of back injuries, and that's kind of a big thing, but I think he could bounce back and be a very good rookie. He was projected to be first overall before he got the back injuries, and he could just be an amazing scorer, defender. He's 6'10", he can score, he's drawn comparisons to Kevin Durant, and I really see good potential in him, but he needs good development. He needs good development around him, and that's why I really like him with the Nuggets, because, the Nuggets kind of lack that scoring, but Michael Porter Jr. can be that elite scorer. He can be that. He has the potential to be that. He just needs to go through good development, and the Denver Nuggets have shown that they can develop players really good. They developed guys like Gary Harris. They developed Jokic from nothing. They're currently developing Bol, and they also developed Gary Harris, Monte Morris. Their development is one of the best in the NBA and isn't really talked about lots. So Michael Porter Jr., I feel like, is a very big piece and has lots of potential. And if he goes to Washington, I don't think that Washington's development is very good, but maybe just getting him lots of playing time would develop him nicely and just giving him the keys to the offense. Now I'm just going to summarize just basically what I said. So if the Wizards do this deal, they get a starting young shooting guard who shoots, brings defense, and gets a lot of, shots, steals, all of that. He's just a very good young shooting guard. And they also get a young building block forward in Michael Porter Jr. to build alongside of Rui Hachimura. So I think that that's very good. I think that Rui and Michael Porter Jr. can coexist, because, there's two forwards. You got Tyrese Bryan as your center. And I think the Wizards need to draft well if they want to keep Bradley Beal, or if not, they just need to draft well in these next two drafts, because if they want to keep Bradley Beal, they have to draft very well and build a young team around him so that he can be convinced to stay. And if he leaves, you need to build a young team and a good young team that fits together and draft well around your young core that you just got for Bradley Beal. But if you lose him for nothing in free agency, then that kind of sucks. But at least you have those building block draft picks. So Washington Wizards, for this to all work, you need to draft well within the next 2 years. So, they're probably going to tank a lot next year because they know that their future really relies on, these lottery picks and how well they hit on them. And then I forgot to mention, if you're the Denver Nuggets, you also get that star in Bradley Beal to potentially push this team over the top in the West. You got guys like the Lakers, the Clippers, the Jazz, the Rockets. They all have that star power. And the Nuggets, they're a regular season team. But for them to really succeed in the playoffs and to really make some noise, they really need Bradley Beal. Now, here's some reasons that the Denver Nuggets should pull the trigger on this deal. They are a small market team. Now, Denver, it's a pretty small market, but you have already got a very, very good team. You've established this culture, and this opportunity doesn't come too often, that you can get a top 20 star in the league, that you can get a top 3 shooting guard in the league. This opportunity is very rare unless you draft and develop, and even then, with so much player movement, they could leave at any time. So getting Bradley Beal would be key to this team, because Jokic would really benefit from that second star, that scorer that isn't Jamal Murray, because I feel like there's going to be a lot more pressure on Jamal Murray this season. I think he can step up to the plate, but Bradley Beal is just such an elite scorer, and I think that he could benefit the small market team, bring in some more money, and I think it would just be a good financial move overall. They also have the assets to do it. Michael Porter Jr. is a very, very valuable asset, and, the reason he's so valuable is because we've seen him and his potential, but the reason that he's not so valuable is he's kind of a wild card. He's a mystery. We haven't seen him play in the NBA yet. We need to see what he does. We need to see him come out the gate and just be very good. This is why I think that this deal could be more of a trade deadline move, and that the Nuggets could wait to see what Michael Porter Jr. does, because if they see that Michael Porter Jr. comes out and already shows glimpses of that elite scorer, then it's perfect. But if he doesn't show it right away and they're impatient and they're like, look, we need to pull this Bradley Beal trigger, we need a year and a half of Bradley Beal over what Michael Porter Jr. can become, then you can pull the trigger. They also are trying to contend in the West, which is kind of difficult with guys like the Lakers, the Clippers, the usual guys that are usually mentioned. But, this team has the potential to contend if you get Bradley Beal. I think that they can be real contenders if they do that. And if they were in the East, obviously, I'd put them as favorites. But in the West, it's really hard right now with their team. Even though they did really good in the regular season, they're still doubters because the West got better and this team just isn't built like a true contender that we've seen in the past. Now, there's a couple reasons why the Nuggets shouldn't do this deal. It's because Bradley Beal only has 2 years left on his contract and he could walk. Now, we have seen players that go to a team and, they're convinced to stay after people think it's a rental. But the thing about that is, Bradley Beal, he doesn't really have... if the Nuggets do good and they start winning and they do good with Bradley Beal, then he could possibly stay, because what else do you want? If he gets his bag with Denver, if he starts winning, he's with this young team, I think there's a legit possibility that if he leaves Washington and goes to the Nuggets, that he would re-sign. But it's still a gamble when you get a player like that. There's only 2 years left on his deal, and especially when there's this big free agent class in 2021, and there's guys like LeBron, Kawhi, Paul George, all those guys, and, Bradley Beal would be a very valuable second piece to one of those guys. That'd be very, very enticing. Kind of like what Kawhi saw in Paul George or what KD saw in Kyrie. Bradley Beal could be that if he decides to leave, and they could recruit him heavily away from the Denver Nuggets. So the Denver Nuggets, it's a really big risk because he could leave, but they need to pitch him to stay. Another thing is Beal might not fit in like everyone says. Like, they think that they need that score, but maybe the reason they do so well is because they don't have that score. It's because they rely so much on ball movement and not so much on isolation and just one guy, and the defense isn't so focused on one guy because everyone on the court can do something. And I think that that's the culture that the Denver Nuggets built, and that's why they did so good and why they were so successful. So maybe breaking that up, too many changes in the system might actually do bad for them. But when you add that star power in Bradley Beal, you gotta find a way to work it out. I think you can, but it's just a risk if you want to risk your system and just this culture you have built in Denver. I mean, it could still work. It's a big risk, big reward situation with Bradley Beal to the Denver Nuggets. Another reason is you're losing solid pieces in Harris and MPJ. MPJ, I've talked about him a little bit, but this kid, I see amazing potential in him. He could be that star that people want. He could be that scoring load that people want for his whole career, and you're risking that for 2 years of Bradley Beal? I'm not sure. Well, obviously Beal could re-sign, but you're getting a prime Bradley Beal. It's a risk. You're going to have to see what Michael Porter Jr. does, how much faith you have in him. But this development system in Denver, I think they trust him. But, you know, when you're a small market team like Denver, you got to at least eye this opportunity to get Bradley Beal. And also Gary Harris really fits well with Jamal Murray because he could shoot, he could play amazing defense, and he's just that starting shooting guard for you. You got Malik Beasley, you got Monte Morris off the bench as your guards, but I think that you also got Will Barton who can play some shooting guard. He has played some small forward though, but I just feel like Gary Harris is a big part of your offense. Even though the numbers don't really show it, he's still young, he defends very well, and I think that you're losing out on that if you decide to go after Bradley Beal. So in conclusion, I'm kind of 50-50 on this. At one point, I want Bradley Beal to go to the Nuggets because I want him to go on a contending team. It could push the Nuggets over the top, and they could be a real threat in the West. But at the same time, giving up MPJ and Gary Harris, these big pieces, it's a big risk, but it also could be very rewarding with the NBA championship. Can it be possible? I'm not sure. We're going to have to find out if it actually happens, but this probably won't happen. If it does, that'd be crazy. But I just want Bradley Beal out of Washington because he's in such a bad situation, and I want him somewhere where he can win, get that bag, and overall be happy. But that's all for me now. I'll see you in the next video. Remember to join SportSource Nation, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.